Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mylio Photos Coffee Break. My name is Angela Andrieux. I'm a product evangelist for Mylio, which means I am here to help you be successful with our software. Today, I'm joined by Lori Rubin. She's also a product evangelist, and she's going to be helping out in the chat, making sure I don't miss any of your questions. And today, we're going to be talking about how to organize your Mylio Photos library by place. Essentially, we're going to be taking a look at the map view, what's there, and how to make sure your pictures are shown there. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in. And I'm going to go ahead and switch here my screen. And hopefully you guys can see everything. Glad to have you here, Mark. Good to see some familiar names here. All right, so in Mylio Photos, we have many different ways of browsing your media. Regardless of what drive it's on, what folder it came from, there's some really great tools in here that I like to call auto-organize for ways to browse. For instance, you have our calendar view, which puts everything on a calendar, so you see everything by date. Another good one is the map view, and this shows you everything by place. So if you're the kind of person who remembers their photos and their media based on where they were captured, the map view is going to be your friend. So as you can see here on my map, I can take a look at all the different pictures that I've taken from around the world. And if I zoom in on the map, so I can go over here to the right, click this little zoom bar, and that's going to zoom me in on the map. If you're on a touchscreen device, you can also pinch and zoom that way. You can also on a computer with a scroll bar or a scroll wheel on your mouse, you can hold down the shift key and zoom that way as well. So just a little couple of tips to get around the map. Once you're here and you see a group of pictures that you want to take a closer look at, you can go ahead and click on a pin, and that's going to jump you to that pin. And the closer you are zoomed in on the map, the more it's going to spread out those pins and show you more precise locations and groupings. I can then go ahead and click the back arrow here and go back to my map, zoom in and look on other things. So out of all of my entire library, I have about 115,000, give or take, media in my account. Only 29,000 here are showing, and that's media that has GPS information. The reason for that is a lot of the pictures in my library came from DSLR and mirrorless cameras that either don't have GPS built into them, or I have it turned off because it sucks all the battery down, or they were captured before GPS was really a thing. This is also going to apply to those working on family history projects, bringing in some of your older pictures that you've scanned. They're not going to have GPS information on them by default. So it's going to be up to you to add that information as you go through, which is really easy to do with Mylio. But for now, it's going to be mostly seeing the things that probably you took with your smartphone, because unless you go in there and physically disable it, that has GPS information embedded automatically. So let's go ahead and take a look at ways that you can add the GPS information to your photos and be able to see more of your media on the map. So I'm going to go ahead and want to point out something here really quick. Down here at the bottom left of the window, right here, you have a button that says View Untagged. Now, I do want to give you a heads up that right now that is broken, but it is already fixed for our next release. So here within the next week or two, when the next version of Mylio comes out, that will be fixed and will be the easiest way to find media in your library that needs GPS information. For now, let me show you the workaround. It's pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and go to my All Photos view. And I'm going to open up my quick filters. So if you don't already have that open, that's this little guy here on the right, or on the left rather. Let me get my directions straight. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to go down here by custom. And then you can go down here to GPS tagged ;no, and you can just type this in to this field here. So let me go ahead and just highlight that real quick, GPS ;no. And since I've already done this before, I can simply click on that, and that's going to filter my library to show all of my media that does not have GPS tags. So that makes it really easy for me to find things that I want to add this information to. So let me go ahead and I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so I can see a little bit better what I'm looking at here. And right here up on the screen popped a bunch of my photos from my trip to New York where I don't have GPS information. I was shooting with my little Sony camera. This does not have built-in GPS, even though these are recent pictures. Now, there's a couple of different ways that I could go about adding this GPS information to these images. I also had my mobile phone, my Apple iPhone with me that day. And so I can go back and kind of compare some of the iPhone pictures I took with the ones with my Sony, grab more precise GPS information if I want to, and then copy and paste it into this GPS coordinates field. If you want to be very precise, that's a great way to go. For me, I'm not as concerned, but I do want to get it close. So let me show you my preferred way to do this. I'm going to go up here to these images. This was from the graveyard around the Trinity Church in the financial district in Manhattan. Some really, really beautiful monuments there. And from here down to, let's see here, down to here, I'm going to just click the first one, hold down my shift key, click the last one. That's going to select that range of images. These were all taken around Trinity Church. So now what I want to do is go here over in the info panel. And if you're not seeing the info panel, just click that little eye on the right-hand side and then scroll down to place. Now you'll notice here on the little mini map, you can interact with this. That's just fine. But if you're wanting to work on adding a lot of GPS information to your media, it's easier to work with a bigger version. So if you click that little arrow, you can make it smaller and bigger very, very easily. So I'm going to make that bigger, and then you can adjust the size. So you just position your mouse right over that divider and you can drag right to left. So now what I'm going to do here is go to the top of the map and type in Trinity Church. And I'm going to put comma New York, because I'm sure there's many Trinity churches around the world. And there it is, Trinity Church, Broadway, New York. That's going to go ahead and drop me right into where that is on the map. Now I can see here there's the churchyard here on the top, the churchyard here on the bottom. I could go through my pictures and figure out which ones were taken in which area of that and be very precise. Or I can simply just grab all of these images and drag them here right on top of the church. If you need to, you can drag this pin to adjust the placement. So let's go ahead and just pop that right there. When you're happy with it, click the check mark, and that will assign location information to all of those images. Makes it very, very quick and easy to do that. So now when we go back to our map view, and let's go ahead and again, we can close up that sidebar. At the top, we've got that same find location. So we can type in Trinity Church. There it is, New York. Pop that in. There are those images that I tagged. And here's a couple others. These are probably ones that I took with my cell phone in that same area. So that's a really great way to start adding that information to your library. And you can really be as precise as you want with this. You can zoom in and place things very, very precisely. But in the big picture, for me, it's more important to get them onto the map in the general vicinity. I'm not necessarily trying to save those exact coordinates. That just gives me a method for finding them on the map. It can be really overwhelming, especially when you're looking at, potentially 100,000 or more pictures that don't have GPS information, trying to add those all very precisely. Instead, I recommend doing it a little bit more loosely. For instance, you could take all of the pictures in your trip from London back in like 2012 and just drag those onto the London area. And that'll at least get them on the map so you can find them. Later on, you can always go in there and move that around, make them more precise if you want to, but you certainly don't have to. So this is kind of the overall way to organize your Mylio Photos library by location. And one thing to note is once you add in that GPS information, if you go in to your dynamic search, and I can type in New York now, that's going to go ahead and find not only things that have New York in the metadata, it's going to find folders with New York with the name, and it's going to find places with that GPS information. So all of these different places are going to show, and I can go ahead and find that particular one that I just tagged. Let's see, where is it? There's one Trinity Center. There's that one. That's going to get me close. I think that was the cell phone pictures. So these are all there, and it makes it really easy to find things based on where they happened. So let me go ahead and take a look here at the chat and see if there are any questions. Looks like everybody's pretty quiet today, so hopefully this is really straightforward. We're open to answering questions about other Mylio topics as well. So this is a great time to do that. You can either unmute and ask or go ahead and just pop them into the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those.
Angela, I'm coming on. Is it okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
So with your geotagging, if you have a specific place Like, so I'm from New York. If I wanted to go Queens, New York, and certain specific areas, can that be done also?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like if I typed in Queens, New York here, so that's going to zoom me out. And then you can take the map here, you can drag it to where you need to go, and then you can zoom in on the area that you want.
Okay, so just zoom in a lot more and be specific.
Exactly. So if
Okay,
you know
great.
the precise location, or if you have an address, you can actually plug in an actual address up here too, and that'll get you in. So like one that I can think of is the address where my grandma used to live. So 1278 Alta Vista in Vista. So let's see if that pulls that up.
So in doing that with a dynamic search, you can get that
There
specific.
we go. Yes. So that pulls
Okay,
me up on Vista, and then I can go in there and find that particular address.
great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions?
I'm
And
in
did
again
you
if nobody has a question.
go for it, Lynn?
I know, does Lightroom conflict with Mylio? Like if you have Lightroom and Mylio together when you're not exactly sure right now about what you want to use, does it conflict if you are using both? Is there a problem?
So that's an excellent question, and something that I've been talking a lot about with some of my other photography colleagues. So you can have Mylio and Lightroom running at the same time and pointing at the same set of folders with media. The thing where you run into issues is if you say delete things or move things around in Mylio, that's going to confuse Lightroom. Conversely, if you do deleting or moving things around in Lightroom, it's going to confuse Mylio. So you want to pick one as your home base. And we've got a great article about working with Lightroom in the manual. So if you go up to the help menu and go down to the how-to guide, go ahead and load this up. And I'm going to go down here to the appendix. There it is right there. Coming from Lightroom Classic, I talk about all of the different things that you need to consider as if you're mostly from your migrating from Lightroom to Mylio, but also in the later sections here, we have integrating Mylio photos into your Lightroom Classic workflow. So it gives you some things to talk about with managing two separate asset managers, because the thing you have to realize is both Lightroom Classic and Mylio want to manage your pictures. Lightroom is a wonderful editor. And if you like using the editing tools that are in Lightroom, I really can recommend that you consider using Adobe Camera Raw and Photoshop instead, because you get all of the same functionality for editing while you let you let Mylio manage your library. That's my personal workflow, and I'm happy to do some demos on that in the future, maybe do a coffee break exclusively on that, because it's something that a lot of people would like to learn how to do, and it's really quite easy. But if you have stuff in both, there are things to take into consideration. Like I said, if you're going to delete stuff, move stuff, and even changing of metadata, where Mylio is very flexible in working with metadata and how it's applied from other applications, Lightroom really isn't. And when Lightroom sees that you've changed the metadata in Mylio, it's going to say, hey, do you want me to overwrite it? So you could potentially very easily overwrite any metadata changes you made in Mylio when you go back to Lightroom. So there's things to consider if you're going to go back and forth. It can be done. It can absolutely be managed. But I will say it's a more technical, advanced thing to do. And for most people, I wouldn't recommend it. My recommendation is to choose one or the other.
Okay, so I work in all three, but I'd rather go from Mylio to Camera Raw. So can I link that as the photo editor?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're editing, let me go ahead and just show you how to do that right now. Let me go ahead and just grab this image here, go up to the photo, and under Open With, if you don't see Photoshop show up in the list, so if you're wanting to do Camera Raw, you open it in Photoshop. You can just go to Other and choose it from your Applications folder. So there's my Photoshop, and Open. And that's going to walk you through a very similar workflow to opening Photoshop as you would from Lightroom. Click Continue. That's going to launch Photoshop and Adobe Camera Raw if it's a raw file. And you can go ahead and go about your workflow as you normally would. And the cool thing is here from Mylio is you don't have to do images one at a time. You can grab an entire range of images, or say even an entire folder of images, open them all up into Camera Raw all at once. You'll then end up with a film strip across the bottom, so you can edit a bunch of pictures all at the same time.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to avoid all the other. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Appreciate
it
it.
works really,
Maybe
really
you could
well.
do a coffee break on that one time just to go over the Lightroom integration or not using it.
Absolutely. I would
Thank
love
you.
to. Editing is one of my favorite things to do. All right, looks like we have a few things that have popped up in the chat here, so let me see what we've got going. All right. Mark also would like to see a coffee break on external editors. That's great. All right. And also using On1. So I have On1 as well, so maybe we can play with that in the future too.
Question.
Yes, of course.
Hi. I have a photo that's untagged. And so when I click on the photo and it brings up on the right GPS coordinates.
Yep.
And I don't want to do the GPS coordinates. I want to put in like an address.
Sure.
But it won't let me. What do I do?
So with this image, like I'll just pull this one up here as an example. What you can do is if you click on the locations shown, you can actually click on that and you can type in an actual an address here and not have to enter GPS information. The catch is that without GPS information, it will not show in the map view. It does allow you to save that information. It just won't appear in the map.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. So let's see here. JK says, are you able to demonstrate how to add pictures to the map via Mylio's mobile app on a phone? Let me see. Let me pull up Mylio on my phone and see if we can make that happen. Give me just one moment. We'll see if this plays nice. One moment. All right, cool. So to be able to do this from a phone, to be able to add that GPS information, let's see here. I believe, let's do, all right, so you go up to the More menu up at the upper right. That's going to be the 3 dots, and you're going to choose Info. That's going to bring up the Info panel, and then you can go down here to Place, and you can go ahead and put in your GPS coordinates down here. Now, as far as being able to drag and drop onto the map from a phone, I'm not sure the screen size is going to let you do that, but you certainly can manually enter the information or copy and paste it from another source. Let me try something a little bit different here. Let me close that. I'm going to close the info. There we go. And let me tap. So if you want to select multiple images from the grid, you tap and hold, and then you can select multiple images. From there, again, we can click the info, and you can modify the information for a group of images. I don't think there's a way to drag and drop. Let's see here if it'll let me. No, I think you have to manually enter it. It's totally possible to do on a tablet, but I don't think you can drag and drop onto the map from a phone. I'll have to play with that a little bit more, but I'm not seeing how to easily make that happen. That's a really good question. All right. And looks like that's all the questions from the chat. Is there anybody else who has a question? Go ahead and stop sharing my phone.
Okay, I'm coming back, Angela. I'm going to pick your brain.
All right, go for it, Lynn.
Do you have any cloud backup services, or is Mylio like a cloud backup services?
So Mylio is not a cloud. In the future, we will have an option for cloud storage, but for right now, what Mylio does is it uses your own storage. So all of the different folders that are in my Mylio, if I go here to my folders view, these are all folders that exist on my hard drive. So if I go ahead and say on my main photos folder, if I right click on this and say reveal in Finder, that's going to show that same folder. This is that folder. It's just giving us a prettier way to interact with it. So it's a direct connection to your hard drive. In the future, there may be options for cloud storage, but we do truly recommend having a local copy as well. So cloud is great for offsite storage, but it can be very expensive, especially if you have a large library. So local storage is going to be much more affordable. But Mylio works with the folders that live on your current devices. Now, you might notice over in the sync panel, if you've got it turned on, you might see Mylio Drive. And you'll notice here it has thumbnails and optimized. If you're a Mylio Photos Plus subscriber or on a trial, you can enable Mylio Drive. And what this does is it puts optimized versions of your images up in the cloud, not so much for backup and protection, but to allow them to more easily sync between your devices, especially if you're out and about using a mobile device and your computer at home is turned off. You can at least get to that optimized version. In the future, we will be rolling out options for full cloud storage that's integrated. It will be most likely at an extra cost, but that's something that we're looking at. If you want to have cloud storage with Mylio right now, you do have the option to add third-party cloud services. So I have Google Drive, you can add Microsoft OneDrive, or you can add any S3 cloud service. That's going to be like Amazon AWS, Backblaze B2, iDrive, E2, I think is the designation for that one, Wasabi, and there's many, many others out there. So those are options that you currently have right now for offsite cloud storage. And those are typically going to be for your disaster recovery. So if your house gets broken into and all your computer gear gets stolen, if you have, a natural disaster or a fire or something like that hit your house, you have that offsite copy. But I wouldn't rely on any offsite copy, any cloud as being the only place that you keep things. Use it as part of your 3-2-1 backup. So you have 3 copies of your media with at least 2 of them on 2 different types of media with 1 of them offsite. But never rely on just cloud storage as being the only place that your stuff is stored.
Okay, so with that being said, do you recommend any external drives that, companies, there's so many out there that
I do. Yeah, I use Seagates and I use Crucial. And actually those are 2 companies that Mylio has a relationship with as well. So you get my personal recommendation and my professional recommendation there. If you go over into the dashboard and into devices, let's say you need to add a new vault, you're running out of space, you need to get a new drive, click on Add Vault and click Continue. It's going to tell you the size of your current library and give you a suggestion for a size of a drive that you might need. The way this is calculated is it takes your current drive size and rounds it up to the closest commercially available drive size. So in this case, that would be a 4 terabyte drive. And then it doubles it so you have room to grow. You could certainly get a smaller drive than an 8 terabyte if you want to, but this is just kind of our suggestion. The next thing you can do, go ahead and click Continue, choose External Drive. And if you don't have a drive that meets that specification, you can say, I need a hard drive. That's going to load up a page on Mylio's website and take you to some suggestions for different drives with the companies that we work with. And that's going to be Seagate for traditional hard disk drives and Crucial for portable SSDs. Both
Can
are
you put
very
that link, Angela, put that link in the chat?
Sure. You can also get to it directly from your Mylio.
It's in the chat, Lynn.
Great. Thank you so much, Lori. So yeah, those are some really good options. These just take you typically to Amazon to buy them. You can get them wherever you want. You can use any brand of hard drive you want with Mylio. These are just ones that we know have good reputations and typically work really well. So any other questions?
Love Lori in the background always.
She's pretty fabulous. I don't know how I do this without her. All right. And then Harold says he didn't know you could enlarge the map. That's such a hidden little button, but it's so nice to know that's there, right? All right. Any other questions today? All right. Well, it's Friday. I guess I'm going to turn you guys loose early. Starting next week, we're going to be having 2 live Q&A sessions every Tuesday and Thursday. And then on Friday, we're going to continue having our coffee breaks, which are going to be short tutorial with Q&A available after. So you're going to have 3 times a week that you're available to jump in, ask questions, get help if you need it. So we'd love to see you there, and tell your friends about Mylio. Tell them that we have awesome support that's here to help make sure that they're successful. And we hope to see you coming back again and again and chat with you in the community. So wish you guys a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next time.
You guys are the best. No kidding. You and Lori are the best.
Thank you so much, Lynn. We appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.